Happy Sunday. And welcome to episode 9 of the YogiVanMan. We're approaching our 10th episode. And it's been a while. It's been a minute since I've posted. It's been a little over a month. I've been working hard, been out and about, and been seeing a lot of progress in my own life. So it's not because I didn't want to. It's because I couldn't. But you know, I was looking back at all the episodes and watching them and kind of reflecting on the 10 months that I've been van life. And starting in January of 2019 and to see the progress that I've made as a man is astounding to me. I set out on this quest 10 months ago. With a few expectations, you know, a few goals, and to see how life has taken me in the direction that it has, bringing me to LA, and to have continued this van life in LA. Big props to Britt, who will be interviewing later today, the chef de cuisine at Brittany Cassidy, or at Birdie G's. She is the chef de cuisine, and she's the one who invited me up here, and I'm so glad that I did. To all my Carlsbad fam, I miss you. But life is about journey. Life is about chapters. Life is about saying yes to opportunities, and that's really a lot of what the van life has taught me. But with 2 months left in 2020, I think it's important for all of us to look at the intentions that we placed in January, which feels like just yesterday, but boom, we're into the end of October. Happy Halloween to all of you spooky folk out there. We're almost there. But it's good to look back and to see, you know, what you've accomplished and what you have kind of swept under the rug. What is it that you are still looking to accomplish? You know, for me, in the van, I wanted to save money. I wanted to get into peak physical health. I wanted to continue to teach and grow as a yoga teacher and as a young man. And later in this episode, we'll talk about divine masculinity and what that means to me, and how our society is somewhat warping what that is and what it means to be strong as a man. But I feel as though I've accomplished a lot of what I set out to with this van life adventure. I've been saving money, which is fantastic. Got to speak with my grandfather last week when we had lunch about different ways to invest and different ways to help money work for you, so that you're not slaving, working 50, 60 hours a week for something that you feel as though is not a good return on that investment of time. And to be honest with you, time is the most valuable thing that we have. It's something that comes and goes, but if you're never present in the moment, you'll never really have a good control of time. You'll never really understand what it means to be alive. So that's really what I feel like I've learned about the van life is presence. It's about holding myself accountable. When I'm in the van, I have a little bit of a break from the hustle bustle of my life. I'm able to sit, I'm able to ponder, I'm able to write. And you know, when I write down my goals, I now have something set in stone that I can look back on and hold myself accountable to. But you know, things that are new for me is things that you may know if you follow this Instagram channel, Birdie G's. We're the hottest restaurant in Los Angeles. It's been amazing to see how the team has really bonded and come together, and for us to execute what we are executing on a nightly basis, and to create the experience that we are for the community of Los Angeles and for people around the world who come to our restaurant. I think it's something that we all take pride in. It's something that we as a team cultivated, you know, 4 or 5 months ago when we began this journey. And for me personally, I was one of the first employees to come up and really help cultivate that energy, and to be able to be in a leadership role now, I think is a testament to not only me as a worker and as a leader, but my leaders, the people that I look up to and call to for assistance and guidance, be it Brittany, Chef Fox, and the rest of our leadership group. I think a big testament to Josh and Zoe, the owners of the Rustic Canyon group of restaurants. If you don't know, look it up, the Rustic Canyon family of restaurants. Just went to Tallulah's the other night with a friend. Mad shout out to Sa, thanks for taking care of us. And Sa is from India, and he's starting to incorporate his childhood cuisine into Mexican food. So we had tandoori chicken fajitas, and he's making samosa tacos, and it's just cool to see chefs execute art through their work and to tell a story of where they're from and of the things that inspired them to get into the field. And we'll talk to Brittany later on about some of what has inspired her as a chef. And it's a thankless job. It is such grueling work, and to see it firsthand, I have gained so much respect for my sister Brittany, and really just in any field that you're in, I've learned from her and from others in the profession. You get what you put into it, and that sounds so cliche, but a lot of times we create these excuses as to why things aren't happening for us, and how unfair life can be, rather than taking the reins of our lives and making the changes that we can control. There's always going to be things that are outside of your control, but don't let that diminish your strength and your determination towards accomplishing your dreams. They're right in front of you. Life is always presenting you opportunities. Feel like God is on your side. And when you hear that voice, that inner voice, it's God speaking to you. Whether you want to agree with that or not, that's a whole nother conversation. But there's so much more to this life than ourselves. And when we open up and have that faith, you'll see miracles begin to occur. But Birdie G's is soaring high. We're really excited about this last quarter of 2019 and beyond. 2020 has a lot in store. I'm not going to go into too much detail about the plans, but you'll have to come up and visit. If you haven't visited already, you got to come by. Give me a call, shoot me a message, and I'll treat you like family. For those of you who have, I really appreciate the support. It's been fun to serve family and friends and even strangers. I've created a lot of regulars at Birdie G's that I now would call my friends, both at the yoga studio and in life. As you know, I'm a very outgoing person, so I enjoy talking to people about what I do, and it's fun to get people into the building and see their reaction to what it is that we do on a nightly basis. I mean, bravo to the team over at Birdie G's. I'm really proud to call myself a part of the team, and I think we're doing really amazing things, and it's only just the beginning. I mean, we're 4 months in. October 21st was our 4-month anniversary, and things are only getting better. So that's really what's taken up a good amount of my time. This yoga studio, Hometown Yoga, has been awesome to just get back into teaching. It was a while for me where I was a student, which I thought was something I needed. It was good to take a break from teaching and just really delve back into my practice. And my practice took leaps and bounds over at Yoga Works on Main Street. Big shout out to Vinny. It was cool to take classes from teachers that I looked up to and I aspired to be like. I look forward to a teacher training here. I'm thinking spring of 2020. If any of you watching have any recommendations on teachers or trainings that you've taken in the past, I'm all ears. I'm thinking Bali, I'm thinking Indonesia, but I'd love to take that 300-hour teacher training, delve further inward towards who I am as a teacher and what it is I'm trying to accomplish. But Hometown Yoga has been amazing in regards to kind of getting the wheels turning again on who I am as a teacher, capturing that voice, and I've said it before, but we tap into that collective conscious when we teach, and sometimes I can go in with an expectation or a set sequence, and then when I arrive, the students who arrive, you know, I feel their energy, and I go with what my heart tells me. I almost like an improv. You go with what it is that the student needs. So it's been fun to start teaching again, and to really cultivate community at Hometown. And Maddie has an amazing story. I'll probably have her on sharing. And I have a few regular students who I've shared this yoga channel with, and they've started to watch, and they've been very inspired. And I want to have a student spotlight. So later on, I'll spotlight one of the students, and we'll talk about the yoga practice in terms of the student perspective, and I'll talk about it from the teacher's perspective. And I think yoga is something that is beneficial for every person from every walk of life. And you know, it's been inspiring for me to get people like my dad and my grandma to yoga classes. And you know, if they can make it, anybody can make it. Really give yourself time to survey your body. Yoga gives you an opportunity to delve inward and to ask yourself those important questions, and to just notice the areas in your body you're holding tension. Notice the areas of your mind that are, you know, at unease and moving without any control. And I believe the more you show up for yourself, the more your practice takes leaps and bounds. But it's been fun to delve back into teaching. And if you haven't visited Hometown, if you're up here in LA, it's in Culver City. Come by. I'm teaching on Wednesdays and Fridays at noon. And yeah, you're gonna get a fun flow, a very creative flow, and cool music. You know, I think funky music and nice rhythm is a huge part of the practice. I love what it can create for an environment and for ambiance, and energetically, I think it can inspire us. Music to me is a huge part of life, and I don't know, what would life be without music? Ask yourself that. Another thing I've been doing is really pushing myself physically, be it on the bike. I've been biking anywhere from 40 to 80 miles a week, and when I was in Carlsbad, just after I sold my car, I was biking similarly, you know, 40 to 80 miles a week. And that may sound like a lot to those of you listening who aren't bikers, but to be honest, 10, 15, 20 mile bike ride can go like this. It can go quick. And I think biking is one of the best things you can do for your health. I mean, from a cardiovascular standpoint, you are pushing yourself, and it doesn't feel like hard work. You're moving, you're cycling, you're moving through this circular motion using your breath. And for me, it's a lot of core work and it's a lot of legs, but I love to be outside. I love to listen to the breeze as it passes by my face, and to kind of just observe. In the city, if you're on the freeway or if you're riding in your car, you're kind of stuck in this rat race trap that I don't really like. And I think on the bike, I can kind of see life through a lens that I enjoy seeing it through, and it teaches me a lot about presence. It teaches me a lot about patience and hard work. And yeah, for those of you that don't have a bike, get a bike. You go on Craigslist and make sure it has gears, and just, you know, push yourself every day to cross train. So if you don't bike, get to the gym. If you're not in the gym, take a walk. If you're not, walking, do some yoga. But I've been in the gym and pushing myself. I want to become a personal trainer, as I've said in the prior videos. And Miguel over at 24 Hour Fitness, big shout out to Miguel. He has been giving me the information that I need, and I've just been delving into the human body. And as a guide, as a yoga teacher, it's imperative that I know the ins and outs of the human body so I can prevent people from getting hurt. As a physical therapist or as a trainer, you have to have that same knowledge. You're entrusted by your client with their health. And you're also a huge point of motivation. And the older I'm getting, the more that I'm realizing that that is my Dharma. Like I am so inspired when I'm inspiring. And it further inspires me and holds me accountable to push myself. If I'm walking the walk, that I can talk the talk, and I can do it from a place of genuinity, and people feel that. People can understand that, and they resonate with it when they're with a teacher that they know lives what it is that they're preaching. And that's the same thing in work. You know, if you have a leader who is leading by example, like Brittany, I mean, this woman is the hardest worker I've ever met, but it's easy to follow those who lead by example. That's something in my life that I've really started to embody and really always have, but the older I'm getting, the easier it is to understand and to reenact in my own experience. But I think as a personal trainer and as a yoga teacher, I could start to brand myself and create work all over the world, and that'll be something, you know, where I love what I'm doing. And if you love what you do, you don't work a day in your life. It's an age-old saying, and it sounds cliche again, but the cliche stuff is so true. So those three things, Birdie G's, the yoga studio, and this personal training certification, have been a large part of my daily life. I think the van has been a tremendous way for me to, again, save money, but also have a space where I could decompress, because I'm very busy. I'm always on the move, always on the go, always trying to accomplish the goals that I set for myself. But I understand that I'm human, and I understand that I need to sometimes not be so hard on myself and beat myself up for not accomplishing the goals that I set right now, and taking it day by day, and, you know, dusting off my shoulders when I need to, and understanding that there's always tomorrow. And for those of you out there who are like me, who are perfectionists and who push themselves, that's a beautiful thing. But know when to lessen off the gas pedal and kind of take a look around at the scenery and enjoy the subtle victories. That's something that I've been really practicing, and I think that ties into the theme of this episode, and it is masculinity. It is this divine masculinity that I believe we as men all possess, and our society doesn't really teach it. School doesn't really teach it. A lot of our fathers don't teach it, and you can't blame any of them because it wasn't taught to them, and it's something that's being really attacked right now in our society. I think there's a big time feminist movement, and I don't think that is a bad thing. I feel like women were suppressed and were silenced for so long that they are finally able to speak out on the opinions that they have, and life is like a pendulum. So the pendulum is swinging, but we're seeing it swing so far left that it's silencing men. It's not allowing men to stand up for themselves, because we could be overpowering and demeaning at times, but I feel like true masculinity is strength. It is becoming a bit of a provider, not only for those in your life, your family, your wife, but for yourself. To provide for yourself is something that, you know, our society teaches us to get in debt, to go to school, not really worry about what you love to do, but just find out what makes you good money so that you can get a good job and that you can start to, you know, chip away at that student debt that you've accumulated from school. So for me, what my journey has taught me is that masculinity is about being open with yourself as to what it is that you truly want to do, and then putting your head down and getting after it day by day, and not making excuses as to why things aren't happening for you. So, you know, as you can see, I'm very comfortable in my skin. I've got this tie-dye shirt on. I wore it, and I wore this pink headband for a reason. I don't think you need to define your masculinity by how macho you are, or by the clothes you wear, or by the car you drive. I think your masculinity is defined by the way that you treat yourself and the way that you treat others around you. So it is important to lead by example in that regard. When you are in your everyday life, the way that you treat people especially as a man, you need to observe, right? We as men, we always want to be heard. We always want to bark, you know. Whoever has the loudest bark, I think usually has the softest bite. And what I'm learning as a man is, in order to inspire others, you first need to find yourself. You need to find your voice. And when you start to live the way that you want to see others, it becomes easy for others to follow you. And this is with your family, with your significant other. When you find a solid ground and you start to live the life that you preach, things change. You become a genuine human being. Your experience changes because your thoughts are heightened. Your thoughts are more positive. And when you think highly of yourself, it emanates outward. And people feel that. We are energetic beings. When people see that you are comfortable in your skin and you do not really care what other people think about you, and you're strong in what you believe in, and you treat others the way that you want to be treated, all of a sudden, people look past your appearance. They look past what you're wearing. They look past what you're driving, and the facade that we put on as human beings is blasphemous. But when you can look past all of that to someone's character, I think me as a man, I really take pride in treating others the way that I want to be treated. I also feel as though self-control is something that we as men need to practice more and more, myself included, and that's for me with the opposite sex. You know, I'm blown away by how many beautiful people there are here in Southern California. And if you know anything about me, I'm a bit of a charmer. I like to flirt, and that is not something that I would say is a bad thing if you know how to practice self-control. So in my life, this last year especially, I have I've had a lot of opportunities thrown my way, right? But I'm learning how to not sexualize women. And if you're a woman and you're watching, you know, I'd love to hear experiences that you've had in ways that you have, you know, gone through any sort of experience with a partner or a significant other where you were able to put the physicality to the side and focus more so on the connection. And that's really what I've been focusing on, is connecting with women and learning from the divine feminine. And we as men can really learn a lot from women. And I grew up with 4 sisters and my strong mama, Mama Chris, I love you. It's from a child developmental psychology standpoint, I think if you do not have a strong woman in your life growing up, it's going to affect the way that you treat women moving forward. I was blessed to have a strong father and a strong mother in my life, which is why I believe I have such a sturdy grip on my masculinity and my femininity. We have both. Whether you're male or female, you do have both. You possess both. You are a piece of your father, you are a piece of your mother, blended together with your grandparents and your great-grandparents, and the genealogy aspect of it is fascinating. But I think in order to really practice self-control, you need to eliminate any physicality from your experience. And that's a practice. You know, it's important to practice what you preach. And for me, I have learned to not sexualize women at every corner of our lives. You know, I think it's easy to just walk around and look at what you're attracted to and sexualize it. That is our culture. That is what we were brought up in with movies and music. And so to kind of unlearn what I have learned, especially as a yoga teacher, be it that there's 80-85% of the students female, is to disassociate myself with that part of the mind, with that animalistic part of the mind that is really just trying to find a mate to have babies with, like from a survival instinct. That is instinctual in my mind. That will never change. I think that's a good thing. That means that I will reproduce, and you know, if God blesses me to have children someday, that will happen. But I think it's important to disassociate yourself with that when you don't need it. And that's the practice of yoga, is to understand the dynamic of the mind and to be able to notice when you are in those kind of animalistic thoughts, and to notice them is the first step, but then to let them pass and to disassociate with them so that you can come back down to earth, and you can practice self-control. I think another part of masculinity is, you know, pushing yourself in a physical regard. So not only do we need to be providers financially, but I believe we do need to be providers in regards of safety and warmth. I feel as though a lot of women nowadays, they want to be the provider, they want to be their own safety net. You know, they don't really, I'll do it myself. And don't get me wrong, that's a good thing. I think it's important for, you know, women to find that in themselves. But for women, you're more of the nurturers, you're more of the caregivers and the mothers that we as men will never be able to be, and need you to be in order for us to let go of our softness and to reveal our softness. But for we as men, I think it's important that we stand strong in our sturdiness, and that we create a physical portal that is one of you know, a shield, you know, of iron, of divine masculinity. And I feel like the more that I've pushed myself in the physical regard, the more I tap into my innermost man. And that to me is about showing up every day. And like Joe Rogan says, there's always going to be that inner bitch. There's always going to be that inner voice that tells you, oh man, I'm sore, or you know, I'm tired, I don't feel like it. And I feel like when you hear that voice, you need to confront it immediately. You need to let it know that it is not in power, that you are in power. And when you do, it's just about getting up, showing up, whether that's to the gym or to your bike or to your yoga mat. Just show up. That's 90% of the practice. The rest of the 10%, even if you don't get the best workout in or the best yoga practice or the best bike ride, you are still doing something that is progressing you physically, mentally, emotionally, and it's strengthening you to the core. I think showing up is a huge part of my journey as a man, and it has helped me tremendously to take strides towards that higher self that I want to be. And I think the last part of the divine masculinity is finding, you know, like I said earlier, your passion in the work realm, because I've seen so many men kind of demoralized because they are a part of the rat race, and they feel as though they're not tapping into their inner creator. They're not tapping into the creative side that we all have. And your sacral chakra is a scale. You have your creative energy and you have your sexual energy. Notice where you're at an imbalance. I think our culture, our society, the sexual energy is being utilized far too often, and the creative energy is not being utilized enough, and you see an imbalance. Not only, sorry, I got a phone call and it cut out the video, but as we were talking about, the sexual energy that we possess as men can be utilized in such a powerful way if we harness our creative energy and we find balance in self-control. So I'm not a big believer in porn. I feel like it destroys what sex is. And we as men, by practicing the act of self-control, you're storing your semen. Semen retention is a vital piece to my own maturation. I'm not going to go into too much depth or detail because it's a touchy subject for some, but I think that you should try and practice this retention. That is a sacred part of your being. And when you're frivolously letting it go, you're doing yourself a disservice, you're doing your future wife a disservice, and you know, you're not practicing a life of balance. And so when you harness that sexual energy, you'll start to notice your creative energy heighten. You'll start to notice a desire to chase your passions. And when you start to chase your passions, amazing things can happen. I want to inspire people to become their highest selves, to become what it is that you were put on this earth to be. And this is your Dharma. This is your life's purpose. For me, I'm starting to tap into it, and that is, you know, be it a inspirational coach, life coach, motivational speaker, a yoga teacher, a personal trainer. All these things are starting to manifest, and I've always had these things within me, but it's fun as you age and as you start to align yourself with your purpose. It all happens for you, all in due time. Patience is a virtue, and I think it's important to understand that and to embody that, not only with your profession but with your significant other. And I'll just close with this. I think it is important in today's society where we're starting to blend what it means to be a woman and a man, and in my opinion, they are two very separate things. Never be afraid to reach out. Never be afraid to talk about the things, your vulnerabilities, your fears. We as men especially, you need to be able to openly communicate what it is that's on your heart. Because if you store your fears and you store your insecurities and you want to put on this front for the world around you, eventually those things are going to boil over. And don't pay attention to mainstream media. Don't pay attention to the social norm, because right now it's warping our society. You know, and this might offend some people, but I'm always going to stand for what I believe in, and I think it's extremely imperative in our society now that men stand up and that we take ownership of what it means to be a man. And for all you women out there who feel as though men are pigs and are horrible people, you know, look inward. For every finger that we point, we have 3 fingers pointing back at ourselves. So yes, for a long time there were a lot of evil men. There always will be. But I think it's good to give the benefit of the doubt and to believe until the trust is broken. So men, we need to regain the trust, right? Practice self-control. Look inward towards your inner creative self and start to tap into it. And you know, I have a lot of hope because, like Gandhi said, I'm changing self. And when you change self, you will change the world around you. So we as men need to be stronger in our masculinity. We need to take control of our own lives, and that will ripple to those men in your lives that are at an imbalance and that don't live a life of, you know, highest purpose. And yeah, for all of you out there who watch this YogiVanMan, I love you so much. I can't tell you in words. You know, if I haven't seen you in a long time, reach out. I'm always available to talk. I do these episodes so that I can stay in connection with those of you that I develop relationships with, whether it was on the mat at the yoga studio or whether your family or, you know, I love all of you. I care about you, and I really want to get the word out as to what it is that's in my heart. And, you know, I feel like I'm doing my Dharma. I feel like I'm living my purpose, and it's going to take time to really see everything come full circle, but I've developed a patience and I've developed an understanding of my greater good. And anytime you want to reach out, or if you want to come visit, you know, if you need my number, shoot me a message on YouTube or on Instagram. Instagram is YogiVanMan or KyleCassidy.yoga. You can add me on Facebook, Kyle Cassidy. But this life is such a blessing. I mean, to have our health is number one. To be able to chase after what it is that our heart desires is number two. And number three is gratitude. Exchange your expectations for gratification, and you will start to see some amazing miracles happen in your life. Next up, we're going to have an interview with the chef de cuisine of Birdie G's, Miss Brittany Cassidy. And know that you are blessed. Know that you have what it takes to accomplish your greatest dreams. And know that I'm always here for you if you need a shoulder to cry on, or if you need a set of ears to listen. And don't take life too seriously. Remember to have fun. Remember to celebrate your subtle victories. And know that I love you. Om Shanti Shanti. Om Peace Peace. Love and light, my friends. Welcome back. We are here with chef de cuisine Brittany Cassidy, my beautiful sister. And I'm very, very happy to have her on episode 9. And Brittany, happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday, Kyle.
Thank you for showing up and being a part of this episode.
Absolutely.
I know the people watching are happy. This is the woman that brought me up to LA. I love her dearly. And we're going to talk a little bit about her life as a chef and what it is that inspires her to be great. We're just going to start off, what inspired you to become a chef?
So when I was dancing for Cassandra Chavez in San Diego, the dance company and I would have rehearsals till about 2 o'clock in the morning. And there's nothing to eat late night in San Diego except late night drive-through Mexican and Denny's. We went to Denny's a lot.
Love Denny's.
And I've always been a home cook, so I started cooking for them, and they really encouraged me to pursue it and go to school. And it kind of just through opportunity and timing worked well that I went to culinary school, went to Le Cordon Bleu in Hollywood. I was the first class of that school. My first teacher hired me for my first kitchen job, and it just kind of, steamrolled after that of opportunity, and I really found a love and connection to kitchens and that environment very similar to dancing in a company, being in a studio, having that kind of discipline and challenge of your own technique and performance. And it just felt very natural to move into kitchens. While I was dancing, I always worked in restaurants. I worked in restaurants since I was like 18. So that came naturally to just transition from the front to the kitchen, and I really found a love. I didn't know that cooking was so important to me as being something I can give to someone else. And that really has inspired me later on in my career to pursue it and still find love and opportunity for value in it.
We talk about that a lot, of not fighting the flow. So from dancing, just being introduced to it by mentors and just not fighting the flow. And I think that was what I heard from that, was it just organically kind of came into your life.
Yeah.
In regards to your culinary experience, what has been a moment that kind of stands out, or a few moments that are the most memorable, whether it's with Birdie G's or as a tenured chef?
Probably one of the things that's one of my biggest accomplishments was just personally. I worked for a chef, his name was Vartan Nabgarian, and he opened the restaurant at the Roosevelt Hotel in Hollywood. And he had a friend who was cooking at the James Beard House in New York. And through just opportunity, I was able to go and cook for them and help. And anyone who isn't aware, the James Beard House in New York is a coveted space in our industry that has so much history, and so many of the, you know, well-known chefs of our time have cooked there. And the James Beard Foundation does awards every year, and it's a really, really important part of our community. And that first time I was able to cook in that space, and that was the first time I went to New York by myself as a professional, going on a professional kind of, you know, out of the city trip. So that's something that stuck in my mind, that made me realize, you know, I have some tenure in this. I've been able to participate in some really special things. A lot of, just because Jeremy Fox and I have worked together for almost 7 years now, him and I have had very pinnacle moments for both of us in our career working together. I think the experiences that I've had with him professionally have been the absolute defining moments of my success. We've cooked at the James Beard House together. The second time that I've cooked there, I cooked with Jeremy. I was representing. I wasn't just helping a friend. Him and I were able to execute a dinner at a 3 Michelin star restaurant during our cookbook tour that could not have gone better. And for him and I, we just realized, I think that was our pinnacle moment of what him and I are capable of together. And then, you know, opening this restaurant took a lot of experience, and I was able to go to Minnesota for about 5.5 months and step out of my comfort zone professionally. And I think not necessarily so much an achievement professionally, but personally, and the growth and value that I got out of that experience has been a defining moment in my career as a chef, and truly has tested me of what my capabilities are.
It takes trust to step away from your comfort zone, to go do something you know you need to do. I can resonate with that, having left Carlsbad, and sometimes you got to listen to that pull.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes life presents an opportunity for you that you need in that moment, that if you did not take, you wouldn't have grown and become the person that you are now.
Growth is never comfortable.
No.
Comfort is a different, you know, feeling and emotion and space. Growth, those two really usually don't go hand in hand.
No.
Growth is uncomfortable. Growth is challenging. Growth is opportunity to push yourself. And I think, you know, if it feels comfortable, it might not be the right type of growth that you need in your life.
Definitely. What would you say with this whole Birdie G's opening? And man, I remember 5 months ago coming up here, and every plate and glass that we have in the building, setting that place up. What would you say was the most challenging aspect of Birdie G's thus far?
Definitely volume. I think volume has really tested my ability. Volume in the most general sense, because this is the largest restaurant I've ever managed.
It's big.
The largest staff I've ever managed. The largest menu I've ever managed. The, you know, largest amount of covers I've ever managed. And I think that has been truly mind expanding, just really growing my capabilities of memory and just knowledge, and really testing how well I know about everything that's going on in that restaurant. And managing people, managing everyone, having individual relationships, as well as creating an understanding amongst all of them that is the same foundation.
Right.
That's been incredibly challenging. It's, you know, sometimes it's like herding cats, And sometimes it's an unspoken connection between all of us.
Yeah.
So you know, it's a real day by day situation of dealing with your, you know, challenges, dealing with how you can grow from them, dealing with spontaneous mistake. Human error always brings in a very interesting value to your experience, and you never remember that. You never put that into consideration. You have to allow that to happen because it exists.
Oh yeah. And the mind wants to create that expectation that we are flawless, that we will execute flawlessly.
Doesn't exist.
But it's, yeah, from a volume perspective, like for those of you watching last night, we, you know, did
350 people on a Saturday night.
You have to move, but like you said, it's so much about your presence in the moment of knowing you're capable of executing because you've been given the tools to do so. So rather than become flustered, and this is something that I kind of preach on the front, is take ownership of what you can control, be accountable, and then know when to ask for help. Because, you know, an orchestra that big, you need every single person all the way down to the polisher and the dishwasher to be executing at their highest capacity.
Yep.
So that when they do need help, we give it. And to be doing what we're doing, I think, is amazing. But we all have very high expectations, and I don't know if we'll ever reach those expectations. And that's kind of another, this just popped into my head, a question of like, how do you balance in the culinary world and really in profession in general an ability to celebrate subtle victories? Like there's always that next quota to meet, and there's always the, you know, the next expectation that needs to be set. How do you, in this field of, you know, chefs, it's a very thankless job. Like people come in with high expectations and they're going to critique you and they're going to tell you everything you did wrong. Very rarely are they going to pat you on the back and say, good job, that was a wonderful meal.
Yeah.
What do you think is advice to people who are perfectionists, and even yourself, someone who can sometimes look at the glass half empty than half full? What's a good practice to enjoy those subtle victories along the way?
I think what I've found, especially with this opening, is, you know, really it's a personal journey. Everyone is different. Everyone takes their, you know, success and pride and holds it very differently. For me, my regard has been to always be incredibly humble and not relish in the success. That's been something that you always, I mean, I learned that from dance to begin with. You know, you get applause is it. There's nothing more than that, just that applause at that moment, and then you move on and you go to the next. So I think with that, you know, upbringing, it was very difficult for me to understand the success because I don't think of it and hold on to it. It's like, okay, done. Thank you for the kind words. Okay, what else do we need to move forward? So for me right now, what I've been encouraged to do is understand that time that I'm taking for myself is me exploring that feeling of success.
Right.
That's been my balance to it. And, you know, reading the reviews, you know, a couple times, understanding that, you know, people are really excited about this restaurant, love this restaurant. My friends reach out to me and just are really impressed and so proud. And it takes just that second of, you know, soaking it in, taking that time for yourself, really just being able to stop the outside world and really reflect on the inside of how much we've been able to do. And
in 4 months,
how much that it took out of all of us to really reach that point. I don't think I'm ever going to be the person that is able to completely accept the the success. And, you know, that's something that I'm going to have to work on as an individual for a very long time.
I think it's good, though, that you do that because it keeps everybody else humble.
Yeah.
I've learned so much about work ethic and leadership from you just observing. And I think that's something that you're naturally gifted at, is leading by example. You're the hardest worker in the building, and this kind of ties into my next question. What would you say is the leading factor in your ability to be the first one in and the last one out, and to, you know, work as much as you do? Is it because of your love for the grind? Is it because of your constant chase of perfection? What is it, would you say, that gives you the fire, other than coffee, to to show up day in and day out? And for a while there, you didn't have days off. Like you were the kind of the coal in the furnace. So what is it that you would say is the leading factor to your drive and determination as a leader?
I mean, honestly, pride and reputation is a big part of it. I think it's really important to it's really important to understand that if I don't give my all to everyone there, it's a trickle effect. It's a domino effect of mistakes and challenges and suffering, and, you know, everything comes with sacrifice. So in my personal life, about 3 to 4 years ago, I decided to kind of go on my own path. I lived by myself. I dedicated myself into rustic because that was my outlet. That was my level of achievement. That was my measurement of achievement, was my work, because I, you know, didn't have a family. I wasn't giving to anyone in that regard. So I gave to that restaurant. That was my outlet of giving. And I think that just kind of developed my understanding of I enjoy what I do.
Right.
So for me, the grind is what I want to be doing every day.
Right.
And not necessarily something that I am required to do.
Right.
I think that's the big difference. Is my executive team, including Jeremy, doesn't ask of me in any of this regard. And I think that's why they keep me around. But that's because this is what I want to be doing. That, you know, I want to give to my team. I want to provide them with the tools so they can be successful. That is my measurement of success. The grind for me to stay there late is being in this industry. You know, this is not a life for the weak. This is not a life for, you know, people who are selfish and, you know, unaware of the amount of work it takes. And I think that's something, and I'm not alone. I have many friends, many women actually in this industry, who do the exact same thing. That's just, you know, when you want to achieve a certain level of success, that's not always accolades within yourself. That requires a very, very dedicated and responsible way of handling your business.
Yeah.
I've been able to take 2 days off, which has created the value of time away from that restaurant. But when I'm supposed to be there,
it's all in.
That's my dedication.
Right.
And I feel like over the past 2 years, especially with Birdie G's, we've been manifesting this restaurant for so long that now that we have the opportunity to execute it, that creates a fire.
Yeah.
That creates a drive. Like the stroganoff, the scallopini, the chopped salad, the pastas, the ravioli, like all of these dishes have always existed, and now we execute them every single night. And it's just, there's the love. That's the fire. It's the fact that we get to do what we've been talking about for so long.
Totally.
To people, and they like it.
That's the key. They keep coming back.
And if they don't like it, we are really capable of creating and understanding and learning from people's perspectives to make the restaurant more appealing to everyone.
Right.
And that was always the goal was always to give. It was always to give our hearts and our love and our memories and our background of food to the masses. And the fact that we actually get to do that is what drives the force of, you know, pushing all day, all night to make sure that it gets done at the highest level executed.
That was very well said. I think it ties back into what I was speaking about earlier about loving what you do and not working a day in your life. If you love what you do and you're passionate behind it, yes, you're working, but it's for the greater good. You're chasing your highest goal, your highest self. And when we talk about from a yogic perspective, our Dharma, she, I believe, has found her Dharma. She is a natural-born leader. She is a perfectionist. She is an artist. And so to be able to see you speak of your profession in the way that you just did, it speaks to everyone out there who is doing something that, yes, there's long hours, and yes, it's not easy, but if you're chasing the goals that you've created for yourself and you're starting to manifest, it's all worth it in the long run. So to all of you out there who are chasing your dreams, take it day by day. Enjoy the subtle victories. What is your goal with Birdie G's? Maybe both short term and long term. I know we're approaching 2020, which sounds alien. Maybe lunch on the way. We'll see what happens in the future. But personally and as a unit, what are some goals?
Goals of mine for Birdie short term is definitely to elevate my sous chef team. I think that's kind of my main priority. None of them have been my sous chefs before. So I think that's a very valuable lesson in understanding how to relay my vision to someone else and have them take that vision, own it, and enforce it, create it, manage it, and contribute to it. So that's definitely my short-term goal, is to really work with the three of my gentlemen individually, as well as grow them to their own capabilities.
What an opportunity as a coach to be given 3 young Padawans who are hungry, who need that coaching.
Yeah.
And for you as a coach to now be able to delegate and take some workload off of yourself, but really it's not, because now you have to watch them and critique them and guide them towards being better than you are.
Yeah. Which
takes patience, because there's going to be a lot of failure along the way. It takes an expectation created by yourself.
Yeah.
Of what do I want them to accomplish?
And it's a vocabulary that, you know, I am learning every day. That's, I think, the biggest thing with Chef and I. We have developed our vocabulary, our language, to the point where it's silent now. Last night we were working side by side together. I could tell he was looking around, and I just watched him, and I was like, it's over there on the left-hand side. And he went and grabbed the recipe book, and he looked up the recipe, and I was like him and I, that's where we are now.
Intuitive.
And I want to create that with my sous chefs, so they could literally just look at me and be like, got it.
Yep.
And go on, because sometimes in kitchens you don't have time to tell people what to do.
No.
You need them to know
on the fly
what's going on.
You have been with Chef for 7 years. These sous chefs you've been with for 5 or 6 months.
Yep.
So it's good to have the expectation, but then come back to earth in the present moment and be like, okay, this is what we have in front of us. And to create that expectation and that dialogue, it's, I think, important.
And to go back to the small successes, I think that's where you find them day by day. I think when you only see a huge goal at the end of the road, it's really hard to understand the progress that you're making to get there, if that's the only thing that you're looking at. So when you come back to a real place of experience day by day, you can reflect at the end of it and be like, okay, where were we very successful today? This. Where were our challenges, and why were they challenges? And then when you take those whys, then that's when you address where is our improvement, and create that as a day-by-day moment, which will, I think, internally make you feel like you are making progress, even with, fallbacks or new lessons learned. There is still movement forward. So I think that's something for short term. Long term goal is to I want Birdie G's, and I think this is something that Chef and I have individual opinions about. So he has, this is his vision, and he really wants to embrace it and partake in whatever he thinks it should be. For me personally, I want to create Birdie G's to be, one, a long-lasting restaurant, and to have an incredibly camouflaged appearance and camouflaged experience, so that you can literally get anything there. You can do lunch, you could do a liquid lunch, you could do a 3-course lunch, you could have just, a sandwich and relax. You could come to brunch and have a baby shower in our private dining room and have this huge catered event and have it be the most special experience you've ever had. You can come in with your love for dinner, sit at the bar, get a little tipsy and have some fries. You can come in with your entire family and do a reunion and spend a grip of money and have one of the best family dinners you've ever experienced. You can come in at the chef's tasting table and we'll host some international chef that wants to create their cuisine from their hometown and their memories, and it's a ticketed dinner at the event. Then there's a private dining, event going on in the back. Then there's a full house. Then people are just coming in and saying hello because they're regulars, and it's just nice to see familiar faces. And I think that in the next 3 to 5 years is the most important thing to me. And getting there, it's how do we master, so right now we're focused on dinner only. And how, that's your bread and butter of sales. So how do we structure that so that is withstanding on its own? Then you invest in lunch. Then we structure lunch. How do we make that the best of its own? Then we've already introduced private dining, which has really elevated, I think, the restaurant in itself and what we are capable of. Then you have, brunch. What could that be? What's a Sunday brunch at Birdie G's?
Thinking of that is...
I know, it's crazy. But at the end of the day, that is the long-term goal.
Totally.
Is to create this restaurant that has so many opportunities for people to come in and have an incredible dining experience there, and really be able to procure whatever kind of experience they want based on what we have available, based on our traditions and our, food and drink and what that entails. I think that's really my long-term goal. And after that, I really don't know. Do we open 4 or 5 around the country? Maybe. Do we create our own hospitality group off of this spin-off of a restaurant? Maybe. But my focus is that soul-standing building and what we are capable just there before we create anything else.
I think it's amazing to see the picture you just painted far off in the distance, and to know that we are still in the beginning chapters of that book. We're in like
2.
Yeah.
Chapter 2.
So to come back into the present moment, and today is Sausage Sunday, so she's got a lot to do. I'm going to wrap it up. How have you liked my yoga classes?
Oh, I love
I didn't pay her to say this.
No, truly. So being a dance teacher, being a dancer, being someone who's grown up in studios, it's so interesting to me how similar our lives have paralleled. And, siblings, yes or no, we didn't really grow up together. I was, when you were born, I was 7. And the following year, I moved to Florida with my mother, and, the whole family, the Troy came along, then the twins came along, and I was more of like a weekend daughter, coming on summers, coming over on Christmas. And
There's a whole other side story to that.
Grew up in Florida, so to come back and to see kind of the evolution of both of us in who we are as professionals and what we do, that part of it, I feel, is our natural connection. And I can be a dedicated student because I'm a dedicated teacher. And to have you really create an awareness as a student of what you're teaching, what you're giving us, what we are creating in those classes has been the outlet that I've been wanting but not able to get on my own, just out of the soul connection that we're so close and the opportunity is there. So it's been, for me personally, a huge, and this is like where I can be selfish, is I can take myself into your class and completely dedicate all of my thoughts and all of my being and all of my energy into me only, me alone.
Amen.
And I don't get that opportunity ever.
Yeah.
So your classes, and not only physically, like my body has responded to taking the class. I don't like missing the class. I really don't. That's been something that's, challenging in this profession. And just when you have days off and you want to take time to yourself in different regards, it's very difficult to lose that. But your class is a very sacred space, and it's a true intention about what you're giving to other people. And I think people respond to that. They are aware of it. They receive it individually in their own, because you see, it's really sweet. Some of the employees from Birdie's come to the classes and have created to be more of a regimen for themselves out of their comfort zones.
Totally.
Which I think is incredibly important. A couple of my cooks have gone, and it's just, it's a really beautiful thing. And I'm so privileged to have that up here. Because before it was going into dance classes, you don't really have a connection with the teacher. It's here or there, you don't always know what you're going to get out of it, so it's hard to be motivated to go in the first place. But with you, I know I'm going to get the best of my own practice in your classes, and I'm very, very grateful to have those in my life now.
Thank you for the kind words.
You're welcome, sir.
I think it's amazing to hear you say that it's a personal practice, and to be able to delve inward. That's what I always say to people, is just show up. There are so many excuses that we create. And it's okay to not show up too. Like, don't beat yourself up if you don't show up, because we're human, and there's some days where you're tired, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But to show up, you're giving yourself an opportunity to delve inward and listen to all the chatter that you kind of sweep under the rug.
Yeah.
And give yourself time to reflect on what it is that you need to do in your life and in your practice. And thank you for those words.
You're welcome.
This episode is Divine Masculinity from a feminine perspective. I'd love to hear what it is that you think masculinity is, and in our society it's kind of being warped. What are ways that we as men can own our masculinity, so that we as females and males can live in harmony rather than bash one another and point out each other's flaws like a lot of us do.
From a feminine perspective, and I think from my own personal journey of how I see men, obviously women relate their understanding of men based on their relationship with their father or whoever that masculine role was for them. I'm definitely in an observance of what the definition of masculinity is right now. I think I have not only having you in my life on a more of a basis, having someone that I'm dating who is who's one of the most individual men I've ever met, and understanding what that role is, and then working with a kitchen that's kind of 50-50 right now, men and women, how that correspondence is, what those responses are. I'm really gathering a lot more of an understanding of men now at 34 than I ever have in my entire life. And I think masculinity has vulnerability to it. And that's something as women, and I can speak only for myself, that's never been a process or an idea or thought when I look at men. I don't see men as insecure. I don't see men as having, vulnerability. I've had a lot of strong, stoic, very soft-spoken in the sense that not a lot of words are expressed, not even a lot of emotion is expressed. So growing up, that was my idea of masculinity, was this stoic, strong, man that, was the leader in whatever the group was.
Right.
And for me now, that is not the idea of masculinity. For me now, the idea of masculinity is having a man be completely comfortable with who they are and living that truth to the fullest. And the masculinity is the definition of who that man is. And I think that's something that's not really encouraged, for men to be true to themselves and what that is.
Right.
I don't think there's a physical masculinity. I think there's a spiritual and emotional strength that comes with masculinity, where they have the ability to maybe process their emotions and communicate them without kind of hysteric. I think that's a true definition of masculinity. Also, I think being able to provide and give to people almost at a maternal level. I think that's something that it doesn't really resonate when you look at family. The mother, yes, is the physical, embodiment of giving birth, of providing, food and nourishment for the children. But what is that role for the man? How is he able to give to the woman? How is he able to give to the children? How is he able to give to himself at the same time as well? I think that's a level of strength, of masculinity, that is the definition of it. I think to coincide on a feminine side is to listen. I think that's something that hasn't really been stressed, is the listening side of masculinity, and being able to observe and soak it in and truly maybe make it kind of not change, but just reevaluate what your own personal thoughts or ideas or approach are to things.
Right.
I think that's something that's, masculinity comes from this this stigma of this is how it's done, it's my way, I'm the man, but to be able to listen, to take a feminine perspective in, to reevaluate, to create a different outcome that maybe wasn't theirs, maybe wasn't yours, but it's something new and something different that creates and challenges and motivates and has this effect to build. I think that is an important factor of masculinity that a lot of people don't practice. And I think that creates that connection deeper than just female male. It's this real deep connection of moving forward. So I think, masculinity comes, and in the definition of it, I am feminine, but there's a very harder edge to me. So I'm not this dainty, feminine, sweet kind of version of a woman. I have a lot of strength, and there is a masculine quality of it. And I think that's where it comes from, is that strength, understanding, listening, observing, being able to give from an intention that is true to self. I think that's where you find that male perspective of it as well.
Right.
That to me is divine masculinity.
I spoke on it earlier. We all have divine feminine and masculine within us. To hear everything that you just said was a lot of what I spoke on before you were even here. It's really interesting how interconnected you and I are, and how, I am a real keen balance of feminine and masculine, and you are a very keen balance of masculine and feminine.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's important to have that ear to listen, because if you only project your own experience outward, you never have time to reflect and to just understand and observe other people and their emotions, and to be okay sharing your emotions and sharing your vulnerabilities. We as men are so stoic in being right and being strong, but it's okay to have weakness, it's okay to have vulnerability, and I think the more that you own that and that you share that, it allows you to then shed that skin, almost like you're shedding past self and moving towards your highest self, which then bleeds into your professional life and your
and that's
romantic
the true
life.
understanding of divinity, is really reaching and achieving the truest, best version of yourself. And I've only learned this in the past couple months. I mean,
Totally.
Getting to know someone who is very true and honest in that regard has helped me understand, men in general, and really see the different light and different personalities and different understanding of what a man is. It's a very interesting, and I'm very grateful to have that opportunity. It's really helped me personally as a woman, take a step back and look internally myself. So it's a good thing.
Definitely. Well, thank you for your time, Chef.
You're very welcome.
I'd like to hug you.
Yes.
You sweet sweetie.
I love you.
Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday.
What do you have to tell all the folks?
Happy Sunday.
Get out there, chase your highest self.
Just be true. Don't feel that your own fault and your own inabilities defines you. I think the definition of who you are and what you become is how you respond. I'm always working on my own responses and understanding how I can really create a better lesson for myself with my own inadequacies. You never stop learning. You never stop being able to create opportunities for growth. And I think that's truly the understanding, is to allow yourself, the patience of growth. It's truly important. And, love yourself.
Let's finish this beautiful episode with the sound of Om. So wherever you are, find a long spine. Plant down through your feet or through your sit bones. Give gratitude to earth. Give gratitude to your health. Let's take a full inhale through the nostrils. Open mouth release. And we'll inhale to Om. The light in me sees and honors the light in you. Namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you, sweet sweetie.
Thank you.
We love you. We'll see you soon. Episode 10. Next week I'm going to do a student spotlight. I had a student reach out to me and she watched some of my videos and she's like, I want to talk to you on your channel, and I thought that was really cool. So thank you all for the love. Make it a blessed day, and go Raiders. Ciao belli.